Hi everybody, welcome to this week's Word Day. It has been a while since I have made a video, so let's start with the, what do I call this, the formalities. Merry Christmas, even though it passed like weeks ago. Happy New Year, 2017, woohoo, we thank God that He has brought us this far. There are great things ahead, and just so many things that I'm excited about what I want to do for this year, so, and I hope you all have plans too. So yeah, I'm really pumped. I might not sound like it, but I'm really pumped. I'm gonna move this a bit closer because I don't know, I feel like you can't hear me. Okay, so I've been wanting to do this topic since last year actually. Just kind of did it this year instead because the holidays, and then I just got busy and stuff. But it has been something that has been on my heart for a while, and it kind of is a prelude to explain kind of the purpose of this channel, because in my last video, I don't know if you watched it, in my last video I was really talking about something that I was really passionate about, and I made a reference that my next videos would kind of explain why I'm kind of doing this whole thing to start with. So yeah, this is kind of like what I said it would be. So today's title is Rings and Bricks, and weird, sounds really random, but it's rings and bricks, and I'm going to treat them appropriately. Now the first part of the title is rings, and I'm not talking about rings, I'm talking about actual boxing rings, and that's because the first verse of my song called Farewell, that is where I got the inspiration for the name of my Friday videos called Farewell Fridays. Talks about a girl, and we're going to kind of delve into that and talk about the dynamics of this female being in this video. So one of the first, it presents to you this young, innocent creature, fragile being, and then by the end of the verse, she's left in a boxing ring to fight for her life, basically, to fight for her sanity, to fight for her rights, to fight for who she is and who she can become. And that is basically how the song goes. You meet her at a point and you leave her in that boxing ring. So I kind of, this video is kind of going to talk about what happens when you leave her there, because I started this thing where it all started from this conversation I had with a friend, Debbie. Shout out to you, I hope you're watching. And it just really made me think about myself, and that conversation was actually brought out the second part of this video, which is the bricks part. But it really made me think also about the song that I had written some time ago, and it made me realize that females grow up, we are meant to be, we're told that we're meant to be this princess. Some of us didn't grow up like that. I mean, coming from like a rather African background, it's not as if I was called a princess since the day I was born. My dad told me when I was like, how old? When I was still supposed to believe in Father Christmas, he sat me down and he was like, the Christmas doesn't exist, but it was a real guy called Saint Nicholas. Like the whole history thing, I got the history lesson as a kid. So when other kids were wishing Father Christmas would come out, I'd be like, he did, but yeah. But I appreciate that now, because now I know the spirit and the mentality behind the whole Father Christmas thing. But like, kind of to show you that I didn't necessarily come from this fairy tale upbringing. It was really real, and it was sheltered, but not too sheltered. My mind wasn't that sheltered to say. So I had to deal with a lot of blows from society, from my own self. You have friends, and I'm usually that awkward person in the group, that antisocial person in the group, that person, that clumsy one. So to be able to understand why I fit in the group of my friends, to understand who were my group of friends. Because at home, I was supposed to have a group of friends, and at school, I had a group of friends, because my home friends were church friends. And, to understand the dynamics of these relationships for me was really hard. And, events would happen where I wouldn't be invited, and then I would spend the whole day wondering why did they invite me. Then I would have friends that accepted me for who I was, but weren't necessarily the best influence. So I had to understand, wait, these people are meant to be the good people, and I don't really know how I fit in them. I'm so different. And these people that are meant to be like bad for me are the ones that get me and accept me for who I am. And it was really hard to find myself and to battle myself, and to battle the stuff that the interpretations I gave to things. Because if I was invited at something simply maybe because I wasn't available, or because it would have just been too complicated to contact my parents and ask them and all that stuff, I would just assume, or it's because they want nothing to do with me, and it's because I'm socially awkward and all these things. So I started having to fight with who I saw myself as. I saw myself as this person that just couldn't be a part of a group. I just couldn't fit in a setting. And that obviously generated thoughts that I had to deal with during my teenage years, and God had to kind of deal with me with those things. So these are many things that nobody really talks about, and is the ring. The ring is mainly yourself. As a girl, you grow up kind of knowing what you're supposed to be, and when you realize that you don't fit anything in particular, I'm not your lady, I'm not exactly your independent woman. Clearly I'm not your lady, I'm not your independent woman either. I'm not this just save the world. I have a lot of ambitions, but I'm not that great. So I'm just in between, and I don't fit any category, I don't fit any stereotype. And to be like, to feel like there is no place for you, that is something that I had to fight with personally. For you it might be different. That's something I had to fight with a lot when it comes to my ring. The ring is basically this space in your mind where different thoughts attack, different thoughts and different opinions and your interpretation of different things that happen around you attack who you are and what you stand for. And I had that a lot. I had questioned myself a lot, and a lot of stuff. I won't go deeper into my testimony because that would take too long. But I really wanted to say, I say all this to say that a lot of women don't want to admit that they have that place in their mind. A lot of females don't want to admit that they have that place in their mind where they question everything they are, everything they are about, everything they look like, everything that they aspire to be. They question themselves in ways that, nobody should doubt themselves, and nobody wants to go there, nobody wants to deal with it. But what happens is when you don't, you have a problem and you don't know how to solve it exactly, and nobody's talking about it, you kind of find counterfeit ways of solving it. You try to protect yourself from these thoughts. You form this hard cover, this shell, this wall, and that's where my second part comes from, which is the brick. Many females, if not all females, at least in my generation, have a wall, like a huge fortress around them, and this wall consists of bricks. And the truth is, really, to be female in this world, you need a wall around you. You need something to protect your mind, to protect your spirit, to protect your heart. You need that. But the problem is, and what results in the wall is It's like every time we learn how to defeat a particular thought or something in the ring, the method that we use to defeat that mentality in the ring becomes a brick, and we lay it to protect ourselves from an attack, just like that one that we just defeated. I don't know if you get me. So we just start building this wall from the different attacks that we have experienced. But the problem is we don't always fight the right way. So our bricks are not always God-given. They're not always made of the right material. And what you end up is with a lot of females that need the wall, that need bricks in this wall, but have a lot of their components in their wall is very much faulty. A lot of it is pride. A lot of it is there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of pride. A lot of it is anger. A lot of it is bitterness, unforgiveness, trust issues. And these are our bricks that we use to protect ourselves from further attack. But these are not the kind of materials that we're supposed to be protecting ourselves with. And like always, I don't like kind of putting a problem out there or making you think about something and then just leaving you there to think about the problem. I usually like to pray and kind of get to an answer. And I came up with these 3 questions that I asked different females that I respect and love in my life. I asked, what is one thing, and these are rather mature people, they're my age, a year less or older, so it's not, okay, they weren't any 12-year-olds. I asked, what is there something, mention one thing about womanhood or being a woman that you wish you were told when you were younger, that you weren't told, and that, you kind of think, well, if you told me that would have made the whole deal so much more easier. And then the second question was, what was it? What would you tell a younger generation, a younger female? What would you tell her that would help her transition into womanhood? And then the third thing was, if an older woman managed to break down your walls and to become really intimate with you, and you could share with her, what would be the number one question that you would ask her about being a woman? So these 3 questions, I pray you write them down, you think about them, and if you have an answer, you can comment it below. I would love to see it, because I learned so much from the answers of the people that I sent the question to. I cannot share people's personal information, so I'm just going to give you quickly mine. The answer to my first question, which is what is it that you wish that you were told when you were younger that would have made the transition into womanhood so much easier. My number one would be, I would have loved to know that there was a transition. Like, in my head, you just become a woman when you reach a certain age and so certain things happen to your body. I didn't understand that it's a place of purpose. Womanhood was a place of purpose that I had to walk into. I didn't understand there was a role. I didn't understand what it was. I just thought it was being a female at a certain age. And if I had understood that there's a lot of things I had to learn and a lot of things I had to be, then maybe I would have started preparing a lot earlier and started being more conscious a lot earlier of how my mind was being molded. And so one, I would wish somebody told me that there's actually a transition into womanhood, that you don't just grow up and you're female. 2, I would have wished that they would have showed me that the woman in the Bible, because again, kind of like with the whole what is womanhood and what are women's part and their purpose. I always grew up believing that women weren't. I didn't believe it. I was taught it in a weird sense, and I fought with it from claws. But I always was taught to believe, that's a better way to put it, that women were counterfeit in the sense, not in general, but in ministry or in doing anything God related. that women were counterfeit. Like when no man would be decent enough to be a prophet, God would pick a female because there was no decent man to do it, or just it was that kind of thing where God used women only when there was no sensible man alive. Because I always loved Deborah in the Bible. She was like my role model. The women liked Ruth and Esther. I just loved Deborah because she was a prophetess. She advised kings, and she was a wife, and I love that. But I was taught that the only reason why she was the prophetess and she was in such a position is because no other man was sensible enough to play that role, and so God had to pick a woman, and that really hurt me because I felt like, okay, so you're telling me I could be anything in the secular world. You're telling me I could go out and be a surgeon and be a doctor and be just anything, a president, and just go out and conquer the secular world or whatnot. And I would be able to, I had to fight for my rights and be myself. But then when it came to God's kingdom, I was just leftovers that he had to use, because we need to use something, and now that I understand that God doesn't discriminate. Yes, there are different roles and there are different dynamics, but God doesn't discriminate. There is a place and a purpose and a role, an important role that women carry in Christianity. Different things that we can do. We can nurture, we can teach, we can, in a weird sense, we can lead. Obviously, we always have to have the covering of a husband or whatnot, but there is a place for women. Women can thrive and can shine and can make an impact and can be remembered for something in the church, and it's not a taboo. So that is something I wish you told me earlier, because then I wouldn't be so busy trying to defend the calling that I felt that God had placed in my life, and I would actually be able to be able to allow myself to be refined, to get ready for that place instead of defending it. I would be able to actually walk into it because I knew it was possible, And this is a lot. But the last thing that I wish they would have told me, I wish they would have told, and I was told a lot of great things. The only 3 things that I wish they would have told me, and this one's a bit tricky to put, but I'm trying to put it in the safest words ever. Okay. I wish that I was told I wasn't treated like my body, or the human female, whatever body was. I hope that I wasn't made to feel like it was this bottle of evilness that had to be contained for the security of mankind, for the salvation of mankind. I wish that I was taught, and in some ways I was, but I wish it was more understood that the body of a woman is beautiful and it's made by God, and it's not a curse, that it's not evil, that it's not this thing that has to be seen as just thrown away and despised, and and I don't know how to explain it more, but then to say that I wish that it was explained that the problem was sin and was lust and not my body. That if I understood that more, modesty would have been easier to understand, and to now later on flesh out in my life and in the way I dressed and the way I understood dressing. Because so many times they tell you cover it, like it's like this disgust for the body of the woman when it is exposed, but then we forget that the real problem is the lust that one feels. And if I'm not saying that a woman should be exposed. I believe in decency. I believe in being covered. But I believe in being covered because of the one I'm reflecting. Because for me, clothing was an act of love that God gave up on man. If you don't understand what I mean, read Genesis chapter 3. I can't go into all of that. So for me, I wish I just didn't have to feel, because already as a female in this world, you have to go around with people looking down on you, with you comparing yourself with just, the magazines and whatnot, and the standards of how a body should be like. And then, so you already have your insecurities or whatnot. And then, whenever you are now trying to understand how to package this body, anytime you do something, you now have to hide it in a sense. You have to already, I think it's messed up. Then I need to package it in a way where it's practically invisible. So, and a woman never gets to appreciate and acknowledge the beauty in her body. But instead, if you make the woman or the girl understand that, okay, the problem is that there is sin in the world, because pre-sin, it wasn't a problem. So there was the sin in the world, and obviously you don't want to encourage, because that's what you can do really. You don't want to encourage lust and whatnot. So cover yourself, before yourself, for the decency of yourself, for the glory of your Heavenly Father. But your body is beautiful. He made your body, and it's beautiful, and it's fearfully, wonderfully made. Not just your face, the whole of you is fearfully and wonderfully made. And you cover it for His glory, and you cover it for Him, and because He loves you, and because you love Him. And if it was said in that way, instead of just go cover yourself, like cover that evilness, maybe I would have understood it a lot easier. But that's because I think things through too much. So yeah, those are the three things. And obviously, I would say that what I would tell younger generation is basically these things that I wish that they would have told me. And if I would get a chance to speak to an older woman, the number one topic would most probably be submission. Now, I won't delve into details because, like I said, I have to have all my bricks laid down and, all my being a comfort zone to be able to actually delve into that topic a lot. But I would generally, it would scope around submission because I still need to understand that properly. So, yeah. The reason why I'm doing this video again is because I've noticed that in the mind of a female, there are a lot of things, there's a lot of greatness, but it's a war zone. And if we don't understand that everybody has it, and actually practical ways of dealing with these things in the Bible, in community, then a lot of women will fall casualties, because it's either they are very insecure or they're so proud and uptight that they can't even be who they're supposed to be, because they're so rigid. And again, this I have no idea what the verse is, but there's a verse in the Bible, in the New Testament, that it says that the older women should pour into the younger women, and I think it's beautiful and kind of goes to my questions and everything. So if an older woman, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a woman that is married with kids or a grandmother, like anybody that you're older than, you can pour into, and anybody that's older than you and that is godly can pour into you, and that way a lot of the mistakes that we made can be avoided. And we would become a great army of great women. So yeah, that's it. Just in case you were thinking like, oh dang, she's only talking about women, and if you're a guy watching, next time I'm going to be talking about guys, and trust me, it'll probably be shorter because I know less stuff about guys, because I'm not one. But I will try my best. I'll do some research and I'll pray about it. I'll ask around and try to give advice as well. But the main take-home message is it's normal to have these battles in your head. There are right and wrong ways to deal with these things. So examine your bricks and make sure that your bricks are not pride, are not trust issues, are not lack of self-control, like what am I saying? Are not what else is there? anger or bitterness or unforgiveness. Just make sure that what you're using to protect your mind as a woman is the right material, and God has the right materials in His Word. And just kind of go through it, and your self-confidence and you can do it. But you need to be able to have the right kind of protection, because the wrong one will, at the end of the day, when the right kind of love, it will not allow, it does not filter properly. So when the right kind of love wants to get to you, it will stop that too. So get bricks that filter properly, basically. And yeah, if you know any younger girl, pour into her, and look and pray for an older woman that can pour into you. So that's basically the take-home message of this. And it was long, but I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I'm glad I finally done it. And yeah, that's this week's word day. Next week's word day will be the male version. And what can I say? Watch Farewell Friday, because it's gonna be dope. Yeah. Okay, bye. Love you. God bless.